Hello everyone, welcome to Tinkering with Terrius. So in this episode I'm going to do an unboxing and short review of the 862D solder rework station. So on the side of the box here it has the product features, and I do quite enjoy the translation here. It's clearly not originally written in English. I don't know if it's actually CE certified. You can see it's the 862D+. It's clear that this particular factory or manufacturer makes a few different models. Now the box says ESD safe. I'm not sure how actual ESD safe it is, but I don't have a meter that can test that. So this is just the warranty card. It tells you all the information about the warranty. The translation is quite amusing. Pretty much the entire manual is translated poorly like that. In fact, most of the manual is worse, if you can believe that. So here we have a spare heating element for the soldering iron. We have this little package. Now, most of the video reviews and Amazon reviews, people didn't know what this was. It's actually right in the Amazon listing. This is the SMD chip remover. So it's a little piece of plastic with some spring steel, and you essentially slide them in under the pins of the chip. It pops it off once the chip is heated enough and the solder is wet. Got some different tips here. Comes with 6 tips for the iron in total. One of them is already on the iron. And we got the nozzles for the heat gun. There's 4 of these. Soldering iron itself. It's a decent soldering iron. It's not, I wouldn't say it's super high quality, but it works for what I use it for. One thing I don't like is that the air gun is attached permanently to the station itself, so there's no way to remove it. You can see that the cord is actually hanging down here. It's kind of annoying. So this is all the stuff that the 862D+ comes with. So we have the 4 nozzles and the 5 soldering iron tips that I'm not using right now. The little SMD chip remover. The soldering iron itself. And then of course the hot air gun over here is attached to the actual machine. So when you get it, at first it comes without the little holder attached. So that's one of the first things you have to do. So once you have the hot air gun holder attached, then of course you have somewhere to set the actual hot air gun. The soldering iron connection just plugs right into the front of the rework station. It's keyed so that it can only plug in one direction. You just do up the little lock nut here. Keeps it plugged in. So there is a mains power on off switch at the back of the unit. And then you just choose which tool you're using. Change it to the soldering iron. I have it set to 370 degrees Celsius. And it does heat up very quickly. It's very responsive with the temperature. It takes a bit longer for it to decrease in temperature than it does to increase in temperature. Just going to do a quick little demonstration here. Show that the soldering iron heats up nicely. There's no problem soldering. This is a little bit awkward just at the position of the camera, so forgive me for my terrible performance here. Soldering iron has absolutely no problem with actually soldering. For $100, $115, this is actually a really decent little kit. So I'll try to demonstrate removing this with the hot air gun now. Just going to attach the nozzle, the largest of the round nozzles. Okay, so turning on the hot air now. Turned on the hot air, and I'm going to turn the temperature up to about 370. The dials are a little bit hard to get to go to exactly the temperature you want, but after a little bit of playing with it, you get used to it. So you'll see that the moment I remove the gun from the station, fan kicks in. It's a little high. It's very hot quickly. So you can see the hot air has absolutely no problem reworking leaded solder. For non-leaded solder, it takes a little bit more heat and a little bit more patience. So the moment you put it in the cradle here, the temperature starts dropping. There's a little magnet in the cradle that basically tells the heat gun there when it is sitting in its cradle. The heat gun will actually stay on for a while after you've turned off the switch, and that's just to keep it cool. Let it cool down to 100 degrees before it turns off. Okay, so now there's a couple things I want to show you inside. So I've completely disconnected the station here from power. And you'll see why I did that in a second here. I'm actually going to take the outside cover off of the unit. So on the back you have the fuse. You can see input voltage 110 volts AC, 6 amps. So this is the inside of the unit here. So we got the big beefy transformer here for powering the tools. But the important thing to note is the position of this switch. So this wire here is the mains wire. This comes in from the outlet. You got your white, which is your neutral, black, which is your live, and your green, which is the ground wire. So the ground wire here is actually crimped. So the mains wire comes in and is crimped to a little connector which is screwed down. The downside is they did solder on all of the other ground wires from the case just to the connector here where it's crimped. So that's not quite up to standard. It is nice that the ground connector is screwed down instead of just soldered to the casing. Some of the Chinese manufacturers will just solder it to the casing, and then you really have a very poor connection for ground. Now the concerning part of this unit is the switch. So this is the fuse. You can see the neutral from the mains comes into the fuse, and then it comes out here and goes to the switch. So that right there is poor design. This means that this switch on the back is actually switching the neutral. It's not switching the live. There will be voltage coming up this red wire and stopping here before the fuse. Everything else will be live in the unit when the switch is off. That's definitely not up to standards. It's very important that when you're not using the unit, I would say unplug it from the outlet. And if you take off the casing for any reason at all, definitely make sure it's unplugged. Otherwise you will get a nasty surprise. Aside from that, the actual circuit board looks fairly decent for the price. Got some residual flux or what have you here. Nothing super bad other than that switch. That switch is, I'd say, the most dangerous part of the whole unit. At some point I might actually consider swapping it, making it so it actually switches the live wire off. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet, but for now I have it hooked up to a power bar that I switch off when I'm not using my tools. That way they're all switched off and I don't have to worry about anything running through them. It's a fairly decent rework station there. It's of course not the greatest quality, but for the price it's very nice. Anybody wanting to get a cheap rework station so that they can start with reflowing bad solder connections on PCBs or desoldering things easier, it's certainly a good unit for starting out. If you were to get more professional, of course, it will not hold a candle to the more expensive units, but it's certainly a good bit of kit for a starter lab. Thank you for watching this episode of Tinkering with Terrius. If you liked this episode, give it a like. If you disliked it, give it a dislike. If you want to share it, feel free. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the section below, or you can email me or you can tweet me. If you like my videos and you want to see more of them, there's a couple links here you can try out. If you want to subscribe, just click on the gears in the middle here. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.